All right, guys. Well, thanks for jumping on another episode of Close and Conquer. Yeah, you looked at the punch me in the face thing. That was my original name. And then Patrick Bet David?
Of course.
So I know Patrick. We competed for years in the life insurance business. And then, I had sold my business to a company. He sold his business to the same company. Yep. So then he called me up and was like, we should meet. So about, I don't know, maybe 4 months ago, he was like, hey, I'd love to talk about something. So I went down there. And I was like, can you give me some, you've been doing this for a long time, and you're huge. Yeah. Can you give me some advice? Yeah. And he said to me, are you able to talk every episode about things that you can relate to getting punched in the face? And I said, I probably, he was like, if you can do it, but why don't you start? So that's when we became Close and Conquer. I was like, good idea, great question. So, but I want to introduce our guest. And it's Braydon Ross.
That's right. That correctly. Right. I appreciate it. Most people say Brandon. So
no, Braydon Ross. And Braydon's a really cool name. Actually, my son played a ton of baseball, and I met a lot of kids named Braydon.
Okay.
So
I thought I was the only one.
So. No, in Georgia there's a lot of them. So a lot of Braydons. And so it's really cool that you're on. And I want to give everybody some background because what we try to do here is make sure, I want to entertain, I want to have fun, but I want to give people real good information where they can actually change their life. And it's funny because I'm 51. So when I started real estate, people have asked me about Airbnb. And I'm like, hey guys, I talk about what I've done.
Sure.
It's not that, but that's what I tend to do. And if I don't know, I'll get people on and talk about what it is that I've not done, because then I'll try to help educate you. But growing up, I got in the real estate business at 18 years of age. Yeah. But there was, when did Airbnb start?
I mean, we're talking right out of the 2008 collapse, right? All these big companies did, right? Out of every collapse, there's major companies that get born.
Correct.
So unicorns were born, and they were one of them.
Correct. So you're in Canada.
I am.
People speak very highly. You're talking about Gary Vee. These other guys, they're talking about your amazing story. I don't want to tell your story for you because that'd be weird. I'd love for people that don't know you, which most everybody does, I've talked to, if they didn't know you, or even for those that do, can you walk us through your story, bring us up to date where you're at? I have a bunch of questions for you that I think people want to know.
It's crazy. So you said you started at 18, right?
Correct.
So I remember being 18 and I was in university, and I thought, what the hell? Why am I listening to somebody I don't want to trade places with? So being in university and being an entrepreneur, I feel like a lot of us are C students, not A students, right? C still get degrees, but I didn't care for one. So I thought, hey, how do I step out of my comfort zone and get my first piece of real estate? So when I was 21, I bought my first condo. Okay. It was a 1-bedroom, 1-bath. I'm from Calgary, Alberta. So if there's any Americans watching, you might be like, I don't know where that is. Maybe I do. I feel like Canadians know more about the US than... Yeah. Anyways, you guys there's nothing to...
The only reason I know is I took a universal health care course in college.
Where, in Toronto?
Okay. I took it in the United States, but it was about the system, the Canadian system. Yeah, so I didn't know any of that before I know the province, the whole deal. So I know a little bit more than I probably should.
So I'm on the west side, right?
Yeah.
And I thought, how can I get myself into real estate? It's not that I was infatuated with it. Some people are like, I'm born to do real estate. I'm like, I love to be online. I want to build a personal brand. I want to get in the rooms because those will create the conversations that I need to get in. So I listed it, but at the time, my best friend, unfortunately, he had passed away now, but he's just a wild guy. He says, let's go to Vegas. Let's go to Mexico. Of course, let's do it. We're going to have a little bit of fun. I'm 21 years old. I want to have a little bit of fun. So how am I going to make money online? I was a hockey player my whole life. Okay. And I thought I could use this skill set to make money, but I want to make money online. There was something called the Calgary Stampede. Okay. And it's like, I don't know what to compare it to. It would be like our Disneyland. Okay. For Calgary, it's like a rodeo. It's the biggest outdoor show on earth, they call it. So I listed it. I was booked for like $300-400 a night. Made $3-4 grand. I thought, holy, I just paid for my vacation at the time. We went to Vegas. We were having a great time. I thought to myself, what if I just did this all year and kept traveling? And
so you bought the condo to do this or not do this?
No. I was living in the condo.
Got it. And so you're out, you went on vacation. Yeah. You're like, hell, why would I waste it? Stampede's there.
100%.
Got it.
And for me, that at the time, I'm just trying to make enough. When you're first starting, you're like, how do I get to $5 grand a month, 10 grand a month? 20 grand a month was out of sight. And you're like, how do I get to that? And then 50 and then so on. And so making that first 5,000 in a month, it showed me the trajectory of where Airbnb was going. It's the Wild West, no licensing, nothing. So I'll try to condense this. I started there and I thought, hey, I don't have enough money to buy another property. That first year I did over 50 grand with the property. Would have rented for 18,000 a year. So I made 3x basically. Okay. It's okay, we have something. But I don't have enough money and I can't qualify for another mortgage. So I got to get creative. So I went on Rent Faster, which is our Zillow. Started calling homeowners across the street and said, hey, I'm a super host. I Airbnb my property, But I didn't tell them that on the phone. I would say, I'm interested in renting your property. So they'd meet up with me. It'd be like this. And it's kind of like, when you're in person,
100%.
it's easier to say no over text and the phone. So I meet with them, and the lady's like, I'm an entrepreneur too. You know what? I like you. I'll rent you my place. It was like $16.50, no parking stall. And I thought, I could probably double this. So got the place, crossed the street, listed it, furnished it, and was off to the races.
Wow.
So I found an arbitrage. I didn't know what it was called. I didn't know what subleasing was or master leasing, wholesaling, none of that. I had zero knowledge. So listed the place, went well. I was like doubling my money for the first 3 months. I get a call and they say, hey, just so you know, in your lease, you signed off on the bylaws. I didn't know I needed a lease addendum at that point or sign a master lease or use a company. I was just off to the races. I got like kicked out of that unit and lost my profits. And
Really?
Yeah. Because they didn't allow it in the bylaws. So the HOA is our bylaws.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, I found the arbitrage. I see there's a market for it. Nobody's really doing it. How can I do this with no money? So I'm going to try managing these. I'll go to homeowners, say, hey, you make more money. I'll take 20, 30%. So that allows basically anybody to step into the space who has a little bit of effort. Correct. So I started doing that, started teaching it because nobody was teaching. This is like the beginning of like when Tai Lopez started releasing. And I actually worked with Tai. So
yeah,
he
I
asked
saw
me,
that.
Yeah, he asked me to start teaching Airbnb to his audience. So the idea was, how do I get this out there? My first clients, I'd drive to them, meet with them. It was for like nothing. I needed that case study, proved it worked. And then started teaching 30 people a month, 60 people a month. And of course, I thought one-to-one wasn't efficient. So how to do this all together? Then I thought, okay, I've proven that I can do this with my own properties. I can arbitrage them. I can do no money down. What if I could put a hotel on? What if I could do a whole building and I could throw a Hail Mary? So I did that. And my friend comes to me and goes, I own a hotel. I said, have you ever thought about like putting it on Airbnb? And I'll figure a way that we could connect your system when Expedia is not booked, all these vacant nights. It's free marketing. I want like 20%, 15, right. 20. So that worked. And we listed the first building was 50 to 100 units. So I thought, how do I put a resort on Airbnb? And so we went to that space, and this is around COVID. So we ended up landing a big resort client with thousands of units. Wow. But it took us a whole year to close the deal. Correct. We were also in Mexican time. Nothing wrong with that, but it was slow.
It moved when it moved.
And we weren't
so you went to them, so we have this. We'll book them when everything's, you still got them available. Here's what we keep. We're going to plug you into our system.
Arbitrage without renting. Beautiful. I arbitraged the deal, and I didn't. And the best part about it is that I didn't have to get specific zoning laws like Lower Manhattan, South Beach, Miami. They don't allow Airbnb, right? So a hotel is zoned for that. So I can play where nobody else can, and I can still be an Airbnb operator. So at this point, we start we landed like 200 villas in St. Bart's with a company that was managing them there. Obviously, those homes are gorgeous. We marketed them, but what we found is all these guys didn't have their systems. They didn't have what's called a PMS, a property management system. So we weren't talking back and forth. When somebody wants to rent a villa for $200,000 for a week, they don't want another villa. They want that villa.
Correct.
So we got sick and tired of it. COVID happened. A lot of the hotels started to shut down. So I'm giving you the synopsis of 7 years, by the way.
I love it. Keep going.
Okay, so we've got all these units, all these hotels. I mean, not hundreds, but thousands of units. And so we're just not their first priority. And so I thought, how do I create the McDonald's of Airbnb? But use Airbnb, but I can earn royalties off other people doing the work. So fast forward today, I ended up getting in with Tai Lopez. So how that worked was 2019, I went to GrowthCon. Like, I want to meet one guy. Tai was blowing up at the time. I'm leaving Mandalay Bay. I run into Gary, Grant's brother, picture. And these guys are following Tai. And at the time, when I was doing Airbnb, I thought, I still want to make more money on the side. I don't know if this is my full thing. And I started a marketing agency like everybody else had. But I landed 3 dental clinics in like my first week. I gave me 35 grand. I have it all documented, contracts. They asked for the whole 9 yards. So my phone dies, and I shout out to Tai in the crowd. And I go, hey, Tai, your SMMA idea, like I made like 35 grand in my first week. He says, pull that guy over here. And he pulls out his phone. He puts me on his Snapchat, his Instagram. So now everybody's like, oh, I just seen you on Tai Lopez's story. Yeah. His COO at the time, who actually now I believe he works with Dan, possibly. Really, really nice guy, goes, hey, let us take your number down. We kind of want to use a testimonial. Tai's looking for like a 300 group rags to riches from around the world that's made 6 to 7 figures with something he showed. I said, of course, I would love the publicity. Never got a call. So a year goes by. I'm laying in bed, and And I remember he's walking down the road in London with this guy. He's like, this guy's doing 6 figures a month with his agency. This would have been 2018, 2019. It would have been 2018. And yeah, 2018 of like October. And I get a message the next morning. Hey, this is Ty's team. We remember you. We'd love to fly you out to Beverly Hills where his place was and have you teach an SMMA 2.0 as a teacher now. Of course. I would love that. Yeah. So I did that, went in there. And as I was actually telling my story and teaching, I said, you know, guys, this is actually not what I do really so much anymore. I figured out this Airbnb thing. It's called rental arbitrage. Have you ever heard of it? And so they're filming. I ended up becoming really good friends with Ty's mom and all these people. And they're like, why don't you just kick around the house for a while? We want to hear more about what you got going on. Really nice people. And I get a call 4 months later and they go, hey, Ty moved to New York. He's got a place there right off Billionaires Row. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. I don't know what the hell that is. I didn't grow up around that. So they're like, we interviewed some other guys, but we really liked what you did. And some of our team actually, I can't remember the exact conversation, but took this and it worked, sort of thing. And so they flew me out. They flew me out to New York, 2019, January. I believe that was the time. And we filmed, he said, hey, we want to release an Airbnb thing to the world. Do you mind going on live with Ty? It's the first time I actually had met him. He wasn't at the house in Beverly Hills at the time. Alex Mayer was. And yeah, we did it. And there was people all over. And then he went to GrowthCon, spoke and said, hey, guys, have you, and this is at the Marlins Stadium here. Have you guys ever heard of Airbnb? You know you don't have to own, right? As soon as he said it that time.
Yeah, absolutely. There's all the validity.
Yeah. That was it. People were listening. And then friends of mine go, man, you're like the Airbnb guy. Like I should just, and then Mr. Airbnb was born. Mr. Airbnb,
which I love.
Yeah, nobody knows Braydon. They're like, Mr. Airbnb.
That's what I knew first.
Yeah.
What I like the most about it, Braydon, is I really want to see people make a difference. I've met a lot of people that are in that space.
Sure.
And I've gone to events they've hosted, except nobody's making any money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I love what you said at the beginning when you're like, man, if I could make 5, 10, 20 grand a month, seem out of reach. Because it is.
It was out of reach. I couldn't even imagine making that.
That's my point. And then I think that, you know, people ask me that all the time about, like, dude, I'm 51 years old.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't making, I own tons of real estate, not the way mine was very active.
Totally.
God, I wish I.
Were you managing yourself?
I bought them, I managed them all myself.
Yeah.
Every aspect of it.
Oh my God.
Maintenance, the collection, the meat and the I began to systemize it after a while because I was doing some other stuff. And when I sold to a company out of China because there were 2 casinos, there still are 2 casinos in Connecticut, really big casinos. And they're every property I bought was within 15 minutes of either one of them.
Yeah.
So I had them all like in, you know, a few square miles.
Yeah.
And I'd gotten up to, God, I can tell you how many units at the time. I sold it for a lot more than I ever thought I would.
Okay.
But I was very active.
Yeah.
You know, matter of fact, I closed about a month before COVID became something.
Okay.
And then obviously what happened with COVID, it was in Connecticut. Yep. So they were a big like, you don't got to pay your rent kind of deal. Okay. Like some states reacted different. They were like, hey, dude, you have a moratorium. Like you're good.
Sure.
Like 18 months, you don't have to pay shit.
Sure.
And, you know, very thankful for me. Timing was just really good.
Yeah.
But when I've watched your stuff, first of all, when I listen to it, it's real. You've done it. But people forget that perspective. You know, a lot of people.
Oh, and there's been so many hard times, man. Like,
yeah.
And you know that. Like,
what was the hardest of them? The hardest time
COVID.
You're like, dude.
COVID just depleted. I think Airbnb, their 25% of the business collapsed. You know, they were worth, I think, close 80 to 100 billion when they went live. And
talk to us about that. Like, when did you like?
Yeah.
They're on the news. They're talking about it. When did you realize, like, this is a fucking problem? Like, when did that hit you?
There's a company, I don't want to name who they are.
Yeah,
they were worth $100 million, but they were over leveraged in leasing. Master leasing is when I rent off you as an owner, you give me permission. So they do that with floors, right?
Okay.
They had to owe all the money on these leases. Another similar company that went public said, hey, if the Dow Jones falls below a certain level or we're in a recession or some sort of force majeure happens, like we don't pay rent until this is fixed.
Crazy.
And it saved their company. These guys didn't do that. Because I wasn't leveraged in leasing, I was okay.
Correct.
But of course, I had taught thousands of people around the world and influenced them to go and start this business. Were they mad? No, they were just like, damn, this is unfortunate.
Yeah.
Right? So I personally was like, I'm not going to go out and teach Airbnb when Airbnb doesn't even know if Airbnb is going to be Airbnb.
Correct.
There's no way. So 2020 rolls around. Got a little out of shape, which I wasn't proud of.
Yeah, it happens.
I did. Now I'm like super back into it, but it's so important too. I know you know that.
No doubt.
And so at that time, you know, it really became the mental fortitude. There was times where I just was like, fuck, sorry to swear, but I don't mean I don't really want to get off the couch. Like, this sucks. I don't know what direction I'm going to go in. I've branded myself around this space. It's not that I can't rewrite myself and take the skill sets of marketing and sales and move. As you know, as a sales guy, it's like you can use that first anywhere. And solar was a thing I was thinking about. But I didn't quit. I more so pivoted. I thought, hey, what if the resorts, maybe we could fill some of their bookings, but then they went to like 30% occupancy. So we were all in on that resort play and hotels, and we landed these deals. We have those contracts, but we weren't their first priority, and they just needed to stay open because they didn't want to pay out at 15, 20%. So for a good year, I wouldn't say I was retired at all. I was trying to figure out what the hell am I going to do next? So let's go from 2020, 2021, just as we started landing these big deals. And I thought, how do I impact more? I don't know how to say this. How do I have more output for each person that I'm trying to work with? And as you know, like, I remember I started, I think for $50, I taught somebody. Yeah. It was $50. I'd drive there and meet them. I wasn't even making money on that. You know, and like.
But you were active. You were busy.
I couldn't believe somebody was going to pay me $50 for what I'm doing here.
I know.
And I remember, like I said, the first $10,000 month that I made, that was before COVID. I was just leaving university. I was working all the time. Like, relationships suffered, the whole 9 yards, right? It is what it is. Yeah. You have to become unbalanced to be like successful, to be honest. I don't even believe in that. Yeah. I don't believe in balance. It's all got to be integrated somehow. So yeah, that time during COVID, I think Airbnb was, you know, crapping their pants. Brian Chesky, the founder and CEO, you know, it's funny. He just had an interview and he said one of the lowest times in his life is when they went public. He said, I was sitting and I just remembered that I hadn't called all my friends for my 40th birthday coming up, and Obama became his mentor. And somehow they become friends. And Obama says, you need to spend more time around, like, still that social aspect. And that's what he's focused on now. He's built this monstrosity of a company, but hosts were pissed. They wanted refunds. They were taking their service fees. So yeah, anybody that wants to do this entrepreneur thing, it is not, I mean, we're in a beautiful home, you're home here, but as you know, like, how much shit did you have to eat? And there was how many times would you say over, call it 20 years, do you think you felt like you're in the dumps? I'm curious.
Over 30 years, probably 30 years. From the age of probably from 18 to 35, a lot more than I should have. I mean, I was making money. I was making enough to get by. Yeah. But I was working literally 100 and some odd hours a week to get by. So my friends were working 40, and not that they were the smartest people in the world, but they were probably netting out, like, their job that they hated was paying them 60, 70 grand a year. Yeah. Well, dude, I'm killing myself. If I made 200 grand in a month, I might put 210 back in. Yeah. And that's what I was doing. I always fed my business. I never starved it. Yeah. You know, so I think when, like, and again, I kind of had an exit out of real estate. I don't want to say by accident, but I was building these businesses and that wasn't my world. I was raised with no money. I was like, we didn't know anything. Yeah. And then once I had an exit, I was like, wait a minute. I can build these things up. They'll give me a multiple on them.
You're like, no way.
Like, I was like, I'm going to do it again. So I did it in waste management. I did it in life insurance. Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I'm like, dude, I'm going to keep doing it. And I think what you said, because I lived through the '08 market deal. Yeah. I mean, I was very much all in on real estate and construction in '08. Okay. Matter of fact, my very last subdivision that I did, give you an idea of '08, it was on, I put the road in, so when you put it in, you get to name it. So I named it Zoldak Drive. It was the family name of the people I bought the property from. Yeah. There was 12 house sites, okay? So I was selling the lots for 100 grand a piece or the house for $500,000. Okay? Boom, I'm rolling. The market crashes. I sell my last two pieces of property for $22,000 and $27,000 a piece, respectively, just to get the fuck out. I couldn't get anybody. I couldn't get them to see them at 70, at 60, at 50. It's almost free. It was almost free. But I couldn't. It was not. And what happened, what I learned was those markets that had that, like, this wasn't a great area. Nobody, it wasn't very desirable as far as people wanting to move. There was no reason for the market value to go up the way it did. There was none. Like, and also when people say to me, how did that feel? I'm like, while I had not been through this before, I knew it would be good until it wasn't. I didn't know what was happening with mortgage derivatives. I know what's happened on Wall Street. I wasn't certainly in the know, but I knew it was too good. because things don't appreciate at that rate. It just didn't make any sense to me. Because then I'd be like, what's going to be worth in 30 years? Like it can't begin to, I can't begin to comprehend it.
Sure.
When you see, because you mentor a ton of people now.
I actually stepped away from the mentorship.
I'm sorry, you've mentored
I
a ton.
have,
You've
yeah.
you mentored a ton.
I still do, but more on a
But you mentored a ton.
high-level consulting.
Yes, but
Yeah.
you consult. You did it for the masses.
I do,
You
yeah.
built this brand where you're well worth it, obviously, which is hard.
Started at
like,
$50.
Yeah, because you're like, I'm doing a mentorship call after this, and I'm like, they're willing to pay this for an hour, you know. But you've been around a lot of people.
Yep.
What have you seen in both? Because I'm always curious. Like, if I were to say to you, Braydon, you're going to give one thing. You want to work with somebody. What is that one thing you're looking for? If you're like, dude, if he or she or they have this, man, I got a shot with them. And then the same thing is, if they don't have this, I have no shot with them. What is that one characteristic? If you're like, if I was like, Braydon, I'm going to do this. I'm excited. But what is there one characteristic, personality trait, or something I need to have? What would that one thing, I know it's multiple, that you'd want from me?
Yeah. And so this is a client that would come to me saying, I want to learn.
100%.
Okay.
I want to build a big business, man. I've never built a big business. Got a few bucks. I'm watching you. I want to do it.
For sure. I honestly think like I'm a marketer and sales guy. The operation side doesn't really interest me as much. So I'm going to go in that aspect because I think if you don't know how to be personable and build a relationship and rapport quickly, you're going to know within the first 30 seconds, as you know, if somebody actually has that confidence. Either you're kind of born with it or not. Can it be taught? Yes. But I think the all-stars, if I'm going to work with you on a one-on-one or even one to small, not many, I think right away you have to show those characteristics that you're willing to be confident and run the room. So I'll ask the person, you know, obviously, like, have you ever ran a business? The common things. But a lot of the time when somebody's coming to me, I don't want to, and this is what I mean. Like when I worked with the first person at $50, that was just a friend that reached out to me. He says, hey man, I seen you rented this place. He got his lease. He was super happy. He landed his first deal. We took a picture on the apartment. It was amazing. Yeah. But now it's like you get companies that are running, and I launched another company, and this is what I was getting at is we essentially are, think of Alex Hormozzi's acquisition.com and Gym Launch. We have Host Launch.
Got it.
So Host Launch is where we're looking for companies doing $1 million minimum per year, have 1 to 2 year contracts. So when I'm looking for that person, per se, it's not just a CEO, but like how are they involved in the business, or how long do they spend on these like low ROI tasks? And I'm, again, as a marketer and sales guy, I can't relate to those operators. That's the reason why actually a student of mine from before, he has 100 units now, and he owns 30% of those, but he's the operator guy.
Got it.
So I'm looking for the characteristics of who can dominate the room in the first 30 seconds, and not just be the shy guy in the corner, because I just don't resonate with those people. I can't teach you. Do I want to teach you how to be that way? Not really. To be honest, I'm not looking for those people. He might, because he's more like, put me on a computer for 12 hours a day. So yeah, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the ambitious people that are willing to come in and already act like $1 million an hour.
So when you see this space, what do you see in the next 12, 24, 36 months of where you are and what you see people are, especially these high-end ones where you're like sitting down and talking about it?
It is.
What do you see for that space in the near future for?
I think, and again, I'm not knowledgeable enough. I didn't live through the 2008 crash the same way, but I, again, just researching and looking at it. And, you know, I want to get your opinion on the markets as well. But in terms of the Airbnb side, Airbnb is getting saturated in 8 cities. Regulations are coming in hard. Austin, Chicago, San Diego.
What are the regulations that are coming in?
They're just saying we need to create transient zones. More HOAs are coming to play, no Airbnb. So investors that bought, like BC and Canada, the government just implemented that if it's not your principal residence, you can no longer Airbnb. That happened May 1st. People are stuck with homes and they're devaluing by hundreds of thousands. Now they can't sell them because they bought them at a premium to Airbnb.
Correct.
On cash flow, that was supposed to be a premium.
And now they can't do anything but sell it.
No, and nobody's buying them.
Yeah, why would they at that rate, that price?
So this is why I diversify, because if I was all in Canada, and this is what I tell people, like as a Canadian, USD is worth 25% more money. So I make that difference. So that basically takes care of my taxes. Canada taxes are ridiculous.
Really?
66% on capital gains over 250.
Really?
It's effing insane.
Shit.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
It just happened.
You need to move.
All right, well, I'm looking at the US. You guys have 1031. We don't have that.
You don't have a 1031 exchange either?
That doesn't exist.
Holy shit. You definitely need to move here.
I was looking at Daytona Beach. I got owners up, from Key West to Vero Beach, all these places. going, hey, I need some help. So I still do take on the odd client. I actually just launched in South Korea last week.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
A whole building. Family in South Korea built 40 brand new units in 4 buildings, 10 a building. Language barrier. On the way here in the Uber, I was on the phone with our software guys.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to learn. They're 15 hours ahead. So I'm up till like 2 in the morning right now. And I'm like,
crazy.
How do they're asking a million questions. How do I get a taxi? I'm like, I have no idea. Luckily I got boots on the ground there, but I've never stepped foot in these units. So they're live. We got 3 live right now, and it's a different culture.
Yeah.
And so I've operated in Europe. I've operated in United States, Mexico, Canada, and now South Korea.
Wow.
And so where do I think it's going? I think places like Canada, terribly run. I hate how it's being ran. Obviously taxes suck. US, I think, is more promising. I think you need inner city returns with outer city properties. And what I mean is, instead of going to Austin, I'm looking at like Arlington or something.
Yeah.
And if I can spend half the amount and still get the same return because it's near an amusement park or whatever, I want those kind of properties. And you're safe if you're in a tourist area, but I wouldn't touch a 1 and 2 bedroom. They're saturated, they're done. Low barrier to entry unless they have amenities like a pool, hot tub. You want those 3, 4 bedrooms that are a unique experience. That's the reason why Airbnb was created. So I think there's a lot of players stepping in and getting crushed, kind of like retail investors.
Which they are, yeah.
And I think Airbnb's here to stay. I think they're getting bigger and better. And with the implementation of AI, the ones who are running and at the top, we still dominate the top.
Correct.
And that's what's happening. So people are going to invest. They're going to get pushed out by regulations, or they just suck. And what I mean by suck is they're not doing it correctly.
They don't do it. They don't do the job. They're lazy. They're not doing it right. All right. So what's happening in Austin and some of these other cities? Like you can't Airbnb here.
Boca's okay.
Is it? Okay, I'm asking. Like,
no, like South Beach, you're screwed. I think like the fines can range. Hawaii wants to ban them completely. There was up to like $25,000 like per offense or per day
in where?
in Hawaii.
For real?
I'm not joking.
If
If
you
you get into Hawaii, the ROI is insane. There's properties doing $1 million a year.
But if you Airbnb or certain areas, you can't do it.
They're wanting to blanket it for the island.
Really?
Yeah. Hawaii is incredible. They're like one of the best.
It's gorgeous.
It's,
So how do you? So you're saying you're in Arlington now? How do you know?
I'm not. I just looked at
but
Arlington.
let's say somebody was. You
Sure.
wouldn't be in Austin, but you're like, hey, if they were looking into this.
Yeah.
But you still don't know what's going to happen with the regulation there.
I have no idea. But what I'm looking for is like in Canada, there's a place called Whistler. So even though all these major cities, Vancouver, for example, are banned, because it's a ski resort, they're built for tourism. So you're more than likely going to be able to keep Airbnb.
You'll be okay, correct.
That's right. Yeah. So if it's zoned as a hotel,
So your play was ahead of the time.
I'm still trying to be ahead of the time because when it's slow in
But even
Canada,
what you did with the tourism and everything else back then,
Yeah.
because it avoided a lot of this regulation.
yeah, I didn't go belly up. It's not
Yeah.
like I wasn't leveraged at all. Everything was service based, and I was arbitraging the marketing basically instead of the lease.
Correct.
And so I was like, damn, this is zero risk. All I have to do is just bring them a booking. I get a cut. And so at scale, imagine you had 200 properties making $100 a night.
Yeah.
And you took 20% of that. And every night that happened. And then at scale, it grows. But then COVID happened. So I think places like Colombia, which I was just kind of looking at, Dominican Republic, you can get cleaning fees because the cleaning fees are the biggest pain in the ass for people when they're booking right now. They hate the cleaning fees.
Okay.
Okay. They're like, I don't want to pay a cleaning fee when I go to a hotel.
Okay.
Because they have economies of scale. They don't have to, and that's why I chose hotels too.
Correct.
Because I have zero cleaning fee.
That's right.
I came in
It's a home
under,
run. Yeah.
and so long story short, I think that where the market's going, A cities are going to get washed. They're already being saturated by 1 and 2 bedrooms. Top operators will still continue to dominate. I think with the rising interest rates, especially in Canada, like an average home in Vancouver is 1.2 million for like
Average.
average. You need to make $250,000 minimum per year on paper right now just to buy. And I'm not talking. This would be like a quarter year, not even of your house.
Yeah.
For 1.2 million, it's a shithole.
Wow.
Like for real, that's where we're at in Canada. So Canadians are looking to leave.
Yeah.
They're already trying to leave, and supposedly, and this is not fake news, but what I heard is that, and I look at the camera when I say that, the $25,000 fee if Canadians want to leave their country right now is what supposedly they're trying to implement. So we have to pay a fine
To leave your country.
if you want to say I'm done.
I want to
leave
move. You
I
got to
want
hit
to
them
move
up
to
with
the US.
25 grand to move.
Supposedly, that's our prime minister. That's a president, but we have a prime minister, Justin Trudeau. I don't. Yeah,
Who likes him?
I don't know. I actually don't know.
Me neither.
Anyways, yeah. So there's a lot of mismanagement right now. I was just speaking at a conference last weekend with the politicians. Airbnb came. We were in Banff. It was beautiful. But they're trying to push back against regulations. But everything happens, and I'm not, even though I'm Canadian, everything happens in the US. I feel like Canada comes second. And there's American Idol, there's Canadian Idol. There's America's Got Talent, there's Canada. It's the same thing with what we're doing here. And our country in Canada is just so fucked up with like how it's being ran. The rich are trying to figure out, just like California. People left California, they went to Puerto Rico or Dubai, right? 100%. Or Florida, actually, is kind of still a good play.
So when you look at,
I know it was long-winded.
No, dude, it was great. Yeah, taking it all in. I always wonder about what's going on there. When is your next election?
Oh, it's supposed to be 20. I should know this. That's how much I like. I'm so annoyed by. I believe it's 2025.
Got it.
Yeah.
What's going to happen there? What do you think is going to happen?
I think he's got. Well, unless I think all the. I shouldn't say all the things I'm saying. Unless you're French, you probably want Trudeau out. Trudeau's French.
Correct.
Okay, we're supposed to speak French. I took late French immersion. I went full French from 7 to 12, grade 7 to 12, and I don't even remember half of it. I wish I learned Spanish because it's more useful.
Yeah, no,
nobody that I know speaks French, but they're all sided with him, and I think
just because he's French.
I don't know, actually.
What percentage of the population there is?
I have no
French
idea.
Canadian?
We have only. There's more people that live in California than Canada. We have 35 million people or something.
Wow,
we're small.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, low debt. Like, there's so much room in Canada. It's a gorgeous country, but we don't have white sand beaches. It's like, why are you paying $5 million to live in West Van for an okay home to have a pebble beach in dark water? I don't get it myself.
Have you, because what you're doing internationally, dude, keep talking. The South Korea play, all these things you're doing.
Yeah.
What percentage of people, I mean, when you talk to people, how hesitant are they to do business outside of the country they're in?
They want to see you do it first. So
which you didn't want to see. You went and did it first.
I did it first. And I'm posting right now about it because I'm showing real time. Like, guys, 2 a.m. I'm working on this. Like last night I was up till 2. I'm tired today.
Yeah.
And we're trying to coordinate designers and get the translations and all this. And because people are seeing me do it, South Korea in Seoul specifically, I couldn't believe the numbers. It went from 8,000 units last year to 16,000 this year. Wow. There's a huge influx. And
8,000 last year.
Yeah, so AirDNA is a website. You can see all the revenue. I could see if your neighbor or anybody who's Airbnb, I could see how much they're making. So we don't guess. We're in a variance, right? And so, people want to diversify. I diversify, obviously, because the currency exchange. They're in won or whatever. So it's like 100 to 1 or something. So it's not the same. But when I make USD, euros, or pounds, then it's gorgeous because that takes care of taxes and some. So I have people on my Instagram, and if I open my DMs right now, it'd be like, they're seeing that I'm looking at Cabo. They see I've been in Tulum and Puerto Rico, or actually I did operate in Puerto Rico.
Did you where in Puerto Rico?
Dorado.
Really?
I did.
That's beautiful.
They got mad.
Really?
I shouldn't go into that.
Yeah,
but,
you can. Why not?
Well, I can't name too many names.
You don't have to name names, but why did they get mad?
Well, we were on the Ritz-Carlton Reserve, right?
Yeah.
So it's in that area. So my friend comes to me and says, hey, I got this place. I need to make at least 20 a month. It's a nice place, obviously. That's what they go for.
Yeah.
That was actually cheap.
Yeah.
By that point. So he goes, hey man, this house is worth $3 million. I said, sweet. He's like, do you want to go 50-50 and buy this? I said, let's test it out on Airbnb. I'll take like 20%.
Yeah.
He did well. He's retired his dad at 28 off selling socks on Amazon.
Really?
Crazy shit. So I don't know anything about that, but he's a good guy. And so he's living in here. He's like, yeah, let's do this. When I travel, whatever. So we're making 40 a month out of this. I'm like, holy, it's full.
Yeah.
We have everything. So we're making a $20,000 split every month. I'm like, okay, this seems like a good play to buy. So it'd be like 20% down, 300 a piece, whatever. We ended up, neighbor got pissed off, big lawyer, owns a bunch of stuff in the US.
Because people were renting, there were Airbnb people there. And
he was pissed. So guy out of Florida owned this place, close to here actually. And that home was $3 million. I guess Bad Bunny, the Paul brothers all moved into that area.
Yeah.
That home got listed the next year at 10 mil.
Wow.
I lost out. We got kicked out. We got stopped because of the whole, he was pissed. He was a lawyer. He's like, I'll hire a private investigator. The whole 9 yards. He's like, I just bought this $5 million home next door, etc. But yeah, we would have made like $7 million. US for me as a Canadian, that's 30%. Would have been a good
were the
day.
people really disruptive to his lifestyle? I'm at like, it was really that brutal. It's
no,
in the past
no,
now.
he knew because my friend was renting it with the owner's permission. He said, you don't have the owner's permission. And he didn't know that. So he thought it was operating illegally. And so I was just helping him market it and delegate the cleaners. We had an on-site manager too. And it was the only one out there in that area. Obviously, they're gorgeous homes.
Correct.
everybody's moving there. So yeah, I'll tell you more after. But yeah, there's like,
I went to, it's funny because I went to buy my mother a condo.
Yeah.
So my mother's in Connecticut. I was born and raised in Connecticut my whole life, and I moved down here 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm gonna grab her a condo because I'm trying to get her to move down here. So I buy her, this nice condo, and and I'm getting ready to close, and all of a sudden I said to the realtor, I was like, hey, listen, because no offense, most realtors, you have to do their job.
I'm not a
for
realtor.
them. No, I know. I was a realtor for you. It's just
Okay,
like, dude, they just don't do their, So I'm like, I need you to ask and get in writing that the HOA is because I just don't want. I'm not going to. You couldn't Airbnb it, fine, but I want to know if my brother's here I just want to know, like, can somebody else come by? Sure. And they came back and said. So the owner said yes, which I'm like, we're gonna go to the association, go to the fucking meeting. I don't care. Ask them.
Sure.
And they said you are not allowed to have anybody stay overnight that isn't a blood relative per our association.
Never heard of that.
Me neither. And I was like,
what a stupid rule.
That can't even make any sense. Well, that's what the owner said to me. I never heard it. He goes, it's not true. I'm like, well, I have it right here. It's in writing. It's definitely true, which good luck selling you because I was buying it for quite a bit.
Sure.
Right? I want to have a beautiful place.
Yeah.
And you have that a lot down here. It's a lot of older folks, right? Like I have people, I go visit them.
So it's in this area.
Dude, it's everywhere. Like my buddy used to go to visit him and you'd walk in there like, you're not on the list. I'm like, dude, I'm just visiting. I'm like, what list? Like, who do you think? And then if we would go during COVID, you'd have to show they'd be like, he was on it. So I'm like, he's upstairs. Oh yeah, they'd follow you in the elevator. And that's why I'm asking about the dropout thing. Was it, because I think sometimes I love when people are trying to make a problem when there's no problem. Like, I don't want disruption. If you were Airbnb in the house next to me and people were partying and breaking shit, I'd be like, hey, man.
100%.
Braydon, like, hey, man.
100%.
You and I got to talk.
Yeah.
You're messing up my lifestyle here.
100%.
But if it's just like people come and go, I'm like, I always ask people, how does it affect you?
Yeah.
When you start thinking about anything in the world, how does it affect you? It doesn't. Well, why are you making it affect you? It doesn't affect you in any capacity. That's like with business. Like you went to disrupt something, which means it pissed people off. That's the way business works when you disrupt
100%,
things, right? It's in what you build. So right now, if I were to say, what is one of the greatest, from an area standpoint, you're advising people, and if you don't want to give, don't want to give it out.
Legal advice or financial advice.
I understand that. Yeah. But if me and you are buddies, and I'm like, hey man, I wouldn't mind doing this. Sounds pretty good. Where in the world would be a great place to go for somebody to look at? Or
you're right here.
This is it.
I was just looking at Daytona because the cost.
Yeah.
I got clients that are looking in Vero Beach. Key West is an awesome place.
Yeah.
I look at what is the most amount of output that I can get? Obviously, the 1% rule in real estate's great. But with Airbnb, if I can hit a 20, 30% cap rate on my property, that's where we're actually talking, where I'm looking for. Yeah.
God.
100%. Because if I'm not at least doing that, then, you could take a crappy looking property and design it. And there's tons in Kissimmee that look like you'd walked into Disneyland because they have to design them to the nines.
No.
But they're saturating themselves, so they're not worth what people are paying.
No, they're not.
I'm not looking at that. I want to go and even in Mexico, I tell my Canadian friends, take your equity at your home. Like, what are you doing? You're not making any money from this, okay? There's a liability for you right now. Like you don't have enough money coming in passively. You'd have none actually from this property. So do a HELOC or whatever. Go buy yourself even a $200,000 condo in Mexico. And if that place could pay you $40,000, $50,000 a year on that, like we're not talking 30 years to pay off property. Like you've already paid cash because there's no more.
Correct.
Like that's insane. These are the numbers that are realistic, but you have to create an experience that isn't replicated by a hotel. Because I was just staying at the Ritz-Carlton or whatever, and I was like, this is a nice hotel, but I'm traveling alone. If I'm with buddies, I'm going to a big, we rented a cool place in Cabo. It's like 10 bedrooms.
I know, it's unbelievable. We've done that in 100%. Cabo. I love Cabo.
But if I'm traveling alone, I'm probably going to go to a hotel. I think Airbnb is still trying to capture that, But it's the maintenance, and I think.
But you're right. I do that too. Like I stay at nice hotels with myself. But if it's other people going, no matter who's going, I'm like, let's just get an Airbnb. But if it's me, I'm not going to go to the code on my own, get the grow. I'm just not.
You don't want to do the headache.
No, I'm going to get the grow. I let them clean my room and get my room service and stay at the hotel.
100%, man. So I think that Airbnb realizes that, and their next play, and this is really early, is because these regulations, they want to allow renters to be able to Airbnb the property because that's their principal residence. And so that's their loophole to it. And they're also looking at corporate housing companies where they rent the properties out. And they acquired a company called Luxury Retreats for $300 million in 2017. Wow. This guy built a huge collection. And if you ever travel on Airbnb, I have yet to stay at one, but it's called Airbnb Lux. It's got a purple badge. You get a concierge. It's like you're staying at the Four Seasons or the one and only.
Really?
Yeah. And so it's creme de la creme. You got homes that are worth 50 million on those things, on that level of Airbnb. So there is that category, but yes, If you're traveling alone, I want to know I have the gym, the pool, concierge. I can
that's
call
right.
anyone. I'm not doing anything.
right.
They don't have that, I don't think, yet. I know I'm saying that, but yeah.
So
I talk so much crap, but
you should talk.
Yeah.
You should talk.
Yeah.
You've earned it. Somebody asked me this the other day and I couldn't answer it. So when I owned my properties and I was renting them, most of them were annual leases. Sometimes I got month to month. And I had to evict somebody. Like I had to evict them.
yeah.
Right? Like it's the way it works. And we did it differently than we all do. I'll tell you straight up what I did, and people won't like this, but I had a 90-year-old guy say to me, and this is a long time ago, he said, you need to, if they're not paying the rent, you need to lock them out illegally. And I said, okay, what do you mean? He said, wait for them to leave. Don't confront them and have an altercation. And when they leave, change the locks. And when they come back, say to the police, it's a civil matter. Like they're going to say they live there. You're going to say they don't.
Totally.
Because they're not. And it's a civil matter. And the cops will arrest you because it's illegal. It's a lockout. It's a misdemeanor. And my buddy I was doing my product management forever, but I had a buddy of mine who had no problem getting arrested.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, dude, this is the way it works. I'll pay you every month to do this and do that. So on occasion he'd get arrested, right? And like they'd arrest him and the cops were super cool and whatever else. But they were out.
Sure.
And now we have squatters that people deal with all over America. I don't know if it's in
Oh,
Canada
I
or
know,
not.
I know. No, not like the same here.
Oh my God. Why does that not happen with Airbnb? Or does it happen and I'm not aware of it?
We're going into another category, but if we talk about Mexico, right? Like, and I'm not going to go too far into this, but yeah, like squatters is a thing. I think like having somebody local that can speak the language and knows the people, because Mexico is very connected.
Yeah.
Right. So you got Tulum saturated. Was it it was amazing. It became the LA of Mexico, and now the prices are crazy. So squatters are a thing. Canada, not as much. But you still, depends on the country you're in. Like Mexico, you want that person that
But
knows.
here in the U.S., if I have a place in Daytona and I rent it to you for 3
question.
nights, and on the 4th night you're like, I'm still here. If I call the police,
You know, I've never dealt with that.
really?
I have not had one
that's
case with
good.
that. So it's a
That's
weird question
good.
because
No,
I wish I
I-
could give you a straight answer.
Yeah,
And my
no.
brain's like, no, we don't have one.
That means it's a good business to be in.
Yeah, yeah. I
So-
know. I'm like, I actually don't have an answer, but Airbnb has air cover. Air cover is a $3 million damage policy and then a $1 million liability. But even then, if you decide to stay, depending on the laws,
Correct.
this is, so there was a case in a condo in Canada, in Edmonton. You probably don't even know that. You don't want to go anyway.
I know because the Oilers.
Okay, you don't want to
Yeah.
go there. I
No.
just was sitting at a bar with a guy last night. He's like, I love the Oilers. Don't ever go there.
Yeah.
There's nothing there. It's a shithole. So I'm from Calgary. It's our,
There you
it's
go.
our
He can
like
say it.
rivalry.
He can say it.
All right. So supposedly this lawyer was defending one of the clients that owned a place, a condo in Edmonton, and they deemed that it's a licensed. They're not leasing. It's not a tenant. There's no there's no lease agreement signed, so they're not under tenancy law. And so because they're licensing it as a guest, I think that could be some sort of gray area where maybe they can't actually have squatters' rights because they're licensed. They're not a tenant.
Well, it's good to know. I mean, first of all, dude, I could do this for hours.
Same
this
here.
has been a great
Yeah,
episode.
yeah, same here.
You're unfreaking believable. Braydon Ross, if you're hey, and I'm going to say this, I've met a lot of people that are in this business, but I've not followed or talked to anybody that knows as much about this business
Appreciate it.
as you do or has had the success you've had.
I appreciate
and you've
it.
earned
It's been some hard
everything.
times, yeah.
Well, but you've earned everything you've got, and I appreciate your transparency. So obviously on the higher end or whatever you're looking to do, if we can help you out, find them. You're everywhere. Instagram.
Mr. Airbnb.
Mr. Airbnb, dude. He's
Yes.
the only one. Mr. Airbnb was in the studio here in Close and Conquer.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. It's been good to get to know you. I can't wait to develop in that relationship. And
100%,
thanks for jumping on Close and Conquer. Guys, if you like this, subscribe, share. We'll drop you another link, another video we think you'll love. Follow my man, Braydon. He's unbelievable.
Appreciate
Thank you, guys.